Okay, also easier now. Okay, cool. We can start then. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Tapping Tuesdays. Today's topic is could mental illness affect or ruin relationships? This includes platonic and romantic relationships. My panel members are Anele, Asa, Cameron, Tom, and Hermila. So these are the people that will be discussing the topic tonight. Just a reminder for all the viewers, please keep your mic as well as your video off. And if the meeting does end, then please just rejoin with the same link, okay? So let's get started. The first question is, what is projection? And Cameron, can you answer that for me first?
Okay, hi everyone. So projection is one of the common defense mechanisms that was actually founded, I guess, by Freud in his psychoanalytic theory. And basically, it's a resource that an individual uses to process or go through a certain event or to deal with internal stress. And it distorts reality. It kind of makes things easier for an individual to deal with. And then projection specifically is when an individual attributes their unfavorable ideas or facts about them or unacceptable feelings or thoughts and puts it onto another person.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer, Cam. Hermila, can you answer that one for me, please?
So I agree with what Cameron said. So it's taking the feelings that you have that you don't particularly want for yourself and putting them onto someone else and assuming that that other person has those feelings or those thoughts or those wants or anything like that.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer, Hermila. Anele, could you add on to that, please?
Oh, hi. Basically, I agree with what everyone said. I'm sorry, my connection is a bit bad. But I agree with what everyone was saying about projection. It's like unconsciously taking your unwanted emotions or traits that you don't like about yourself and attributing them to someone else, whether that be a friend, a partner, or like family member, anything like that. There's types of projection. So we have neurotic projection, complementary projection, and another complementary projection. The neurotic projection is the one that's like the most common, where you just attribute your feelings, your motives, your desires, attitudes that you don't, and then you put them on someone else. And then the complementary projection is when someone believes that everyone else shares the same opinions and thoughts as they do. So they just automatically project the fact that, okay, you know what, if I like pizza, then Meera likes pizza. And the other one occurs when someone assumes that other people have the same skills they do. So it's they don't think about how the lack of that skill would affect someone, because to them, you should already have that skill. You automatically should have already, you should know what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer, Anele. Asa, is there anything you would like to add on?
No, not really. Like I agree with what everyone's saying on what projection is.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Dom, would you like to add on to that?
I feel like everybody hit it spot on. But I don't think it's something that everybody would necessarily be thinking about. I think it's more of a reaction, kind of a defense mechanism at the same time. But yeah, no, it's definitely something that somebody would have an internalized thought on. And because this is this way that this person thinks, they will unwillingly, most of the time, or sorry, unknowingly, be saying such things, or be saying things, or have an opinion about something without it actually, being realized that you're saying, oh, so and so, just as a really bad example, so and so hates wasabi ice cream, but wasabi ice cream is amazing. They're not very smart. Their opinion is quite dumb. But so and so is entitled to that opinion. So it's more like an internalized defense mechanism that people make use of when they have these thoughts in their mind. But everybody kind of hit the spot on though.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you for your answer, Dom. Okay, so everybody has answered that. Cameron, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Dom. It definitely is an unconscious process that's happening. And I don't think people are aware of it happening. And because of that, it kind of distorts their reality into the way that they want it to seem or what they want to see.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. So there's nothing anybody else would like to add on. Then we can move on to the next question. So the next question is, what are some examples of projection? Asa, can you answer that for me, please?
Like when you're, for an example would be when you're a cheating partner and you automatically like think that the person that your partner is cheating on you because of what you're doing to them. Wait, I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
No, it makes sense. It does. Yeah, that is one of the examples of projection. Cameron, do you have any other examples that you would like to add?
So when I thought of examples, I was thinking of previous chats that Seth has had. And when you spoke about sex workers and things like that, you said that the main people that are hating on sex workers are the people that are engaging in their content and stuff. So that is a form of projection where they kind of feel ashamed of what they're doing behind closed doors and in secret. So they're projecting onto the people that they actually, yeah. And as well, I think about like homophobia and things like that. It's usually people that have those thoughts themselves.
Yeah, that's a very good example as well. And Lele, do you have another example?
I was going to talk about how insecurities, you can project insecurities in your relationships, in your friendships, your romantic relationships. And it's like when you're insecure about how you feel. So when you want to project that onto someone who's confident, like your friend who's really, really confident, you project those insecurities so that it's not something that you feel by yourself.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's a very, very good example as well of projection. Dominic, would you like to add on to that?
Yeah, sure. I feel like because people don't realize, well, you can actually realize that you're projecting, but most of the time in that moment you don't realize you're projecting. And essentially it's not really up to you to notice whether or not you are actually having or projecting your feelings or insecurities onto somebody. For example, just like Asa said, for example, let's say that you've been in a previous relationship and you were cheated on. In that previous relationship, you gain trauma from that, which in itself internalizes an insecurity to you. Your next partner that you get into a relationship with, you could constantly be about, oh, I hope you're not cheating on me. I love you, blah, 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 blah. And you continuously promote this narrative of, I don't want you to cheat on me because I've been cheated on before. That insecurity, that internal insecurity becomes an external thought, and it starts to impact your relationship. So just moving away from the cheating thing, it can be anything, especially when we talk about platonic relationships as well. You could have had amazing a whole bunch of friends when you were younger, but all of them left used in some way or another in your life. And you get this new friend in university, and you guys have just become friends, but then they get a new friend, and you start projecting this internalized idea of, I hope that you don't leave me like all of the other people in my life have left you. When this person has given you no indication that they will be doing these types of things. So it's more of I think I like to think about it as a human body being a bottle, and all these insecurities kind of being like the water inside of the bottle. Punctures and cracks will leak out these insecurities, and without you really, thinking about it beforehand, you start to show these insecurities in your actions, through the words or through the things that you say, and even through social media, body language, there's tons of ways that you're able to show that these insecurities are really affecting you. But at the end of the day, it always goes back to either a previous trauma experience or just a bad experience that you have had in general. So again, multiple ways that you are able to project through something, conversations, body language, everything. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. It can end up doing that. Thank you for your answer, Dom. Now, did I ask everybody? No. Hamla, can you give me some examples of protection?
Okay, I think we've I think the other examples that were given were mostly, like properly explained, like they explain properly the way projection works. But I can think of another one. For example, if you're the type of person who, would like space, for example, when you have a problem, and you would like space to sort it through before you bring it to your either significant other or a platonic friend. And you would take time, so you assume that if this person has a problem and they don't talk to me about it, I can tell that they're experiencing something, but I'm not going to ask just in case it pressures them, because I would like time. And then you end up not asking. And the other person, because they would ask if they had problems, or like if they were feeling something, they would immediately address it with the platonic friend, or with the person that they're in a relationship with. They would assume that you don't care, and that's why you're not asking. And this other person is thinking, okay, like I care enough to give them space, so I'm not gonna ask. That kind of stuff feels like projection. Like you're thinking, okay, they would do what I would do, basically, and they feel the way I feel. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, that makes sense as well. Assuming that they would want to be treated the same way that you would like to as well. And yeah, I think I've asked everybody to give some examples, right? No? Okay, so if there's nothing that anyone would like to add on, then we can move on to the next question. Okay, cool. Question 3. So the next question is, what is mental illness? Anele, can you answer that for me, please?
Okay, so mental illnesses are health conditions which involve like changes in emotions, thinking, or behavior. And sometimes it's a combination of these. Most mental illnesses are associated with like distress and problems functioning in society, at work, or family activities, or even just by yourself. Yeah, they are. It is like estimated, I think, that at least 10% of the world's population is affected, and 20% of children and adolescents suffer from some type of mental disorder. And if you look at it, that's 2.2, because the number of children in the world right now, according to the World Health Organization, is like 2.2 billion. So 20% of 2.2 billion is a large number. And it's a thing that's on the rise. Mental health is deteriorating because of the pandemic that we're in also. It's something that is urgent and I feel like needs to be dealt with. But because of resources and other factors, we aren't always able to.
Yeah, no, it is definitely something that is on the rise and needs to be dealt with, but not everybody can afford to, which is, it's extremely sad. But Cameron, can you answer a question for me as well?
Yeah, I've just got this really long technical answer. Mental illness or disorders are clinically significant behavioral or psychological syndromes or patterns that occurs in individuals and is associated with distress, disability, or significantly increased risk of suffering, pain, or important loss of freedom. To add to what Anile said, something like 1 in 6 South Africans would suffer from a depressive episode at least once in their life. And I think that's a really shocking statistic. And if we do take time to actually go and read up statistics, you would be shocked. It's actually scary. But yeah, an individual experiencing mental health problems experience difficulty in thinking, mood shifts or behavior changes, and all of that stuff can be drastically affected and changed. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer, Cameron. Asa, would you like to add on?
I agree with what everyone's saying about what a mental illness is. It's something that happens in the mind. It's not something that everyone can see unless you actually know someone who's going through it. And also mental illness is a real thing, as Cameron has said, and Anile, by the statistics they've given us. It's not just something that's made up, and the conversation on it has become very a lot more prominent than it used to be.
Yeah, no, definitely. It is real. No, and more people need to start taking it seriously and recognizing it. Hermela, would you like to answer for me? What is mental illness?
Okay, so I think everyone has summed it up quite nicely. It's a wide range of conditions that that affect your mood, your thinking and behavior. And yeah, it's definitely, like Asa also said, it definitely does exist. A lot of people suffer from lots of different types of mental illnesses. I feel like also because as we go towards the years where we have more things affecting our mental health, things like social, I don't know, even technological advances and stuff like that. The usage of social media, the way we now have to put in more work, more work hours than maybe our parents and grandparents had to in order to afford the lifestyle that we want to afford, and things like that. So it's definitely a lot of people that suffer from it. And I think it needs to be treated as like any other disability would, especially because there are some disabilities, kind of like autism, which I think is a disability. I'm not sure, but I think it's a disability, and it also falls under mental illness. So I think people need to consider, others and what kind of mental illness they might have, and make sure that the places, the work environment, home environment, and so on and so forth are inclusive of those kinds of people.
Yeah, no, definitely agree. Thank you, Amila. Anile, you've got your hand up.
I just wanted to add that mental illness looks different on everyone. I feel like that's one thing that a lot of people don't mention, is that it looks different on everyone. Two people might both have depression, but it might manifest itself in a different way, in a way that like another person doesn't understand. And also it's like people who have mental illnesses aren't any less of a person because of their mental illness. You know, you have a mental illness and that is okay because life happens, you know, and it's about learning how to deal and learning how to, you know, work through and find a way that works for you if you do have a mental illness. And also I feel like the lack of resources, especially dealing with mental illness, especially in like children and teenagers and all of that, it gets very hard because when you meet someone who's got a mental illness, but they themselves don't know that it's a mental illness because they can't afford to, you know, it gets hard as a person who, because you know, you're like, okay, not maybe because I've gotten help, I can be like, oh, I know what it is. I know the symptoms that you're showing could be, you know, like for me, maybe, you know, could have been depression or whatnot. And then it's hard to talk to someone because you can't exactly say, hey, I can help you, because you can't. You aren't the therapist, you aren't licensed to do that. And it might badly affect your mental health, you know? And I just wish that there were a bit more resources and easier ways on how to cope and all of that. And also I read something that was pretty incredible to me. Let me quickly read it. Telling someone you're not really sick, it's all in your head. It's like telling someone with asthma, it's not real, it's all in your lungs. The brain is an
Yeah.
organ. The brain is an organ and it can malfunction as much as other organs. It sometimes just might take a little longer for you to get it back to original state. It might take you for the rest of your life, actually. It might not even just be, you know, a thing that you can easily get over. I just wish we'd destigmatize mental illness.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you for that answer. Very well said, Anele. We definitely need to destigmatize mental illness because, you know, people need help, not judgment, and they need the proper help as well. So lack of resources does definitely ruin that for them. Dominic, I think I haven't asked you.
Yeah.
What is mental illness? Is there anything you would like to add on?
Yeah, sure. Mental illness, just like to just answer that question really plain and simple. It's a disorder of your brain. Whether it's going to be mood disorder, thought patterns, actions that you do on a daily basis. It's basically just a disorder of your brain that initially you most likely will not be aware of. And I actually really liked Anelia's answer. I mean, she sounds very passionate about mental illness and raising awareness and destigmatizing the entire situation. I just like to add on, I don't think it is a lack of resources that is hindering people's acknowledgement of mental health and mental illnesses. I think it's just a lack of awareness and a lack of education from a young age, where, you know, when I was young, I was a bit of a chubby kid. And I didn't know that all of these effects and bullying and all of the trauma that I was experiencing at that time was creating a a type of depression in myself. And you know, you go through your entire life thinking like, this is how I am, because people make you think that type of way. You have this, once again, projection onto you. So your mind starts to once again internalize these little kids' projections, of which I'm amazed to see that not a lot of people actually do go through the same traumas that we went through when we were kids. But it's actually great to see that as well, because parents are educating their children. Just going back to what I was saying is that we need to have an awareness from a very, very young age that mental health is a real issue, that depression in kids at the age of 7 is real, that all of these things that a child would say that, oh, I don't feel good about this. These things are real. And I don't think as I said, it's not a resource thing. It's just like an adult knowing these things, believing in these things as well. Because at the end of the day, we can't, as adults right now, invalidate what a 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old is saying. Um, it goes back to that acceptance, having these things given. I mean, I firmly believe that mental health and having an understanding of people's mental health issues should definitely be an integral part of life orientation within schools. It's something that it's something that definitely needs to be like, each and every year when you do allo, you always learn about drugs and all of these things. Um, Sexual health, doing the right things. But I mean, like, you're not really going to be having sex at the age of 14 when you're in grade 7. You know what I'm saying? But you can have depression. You can definitely have depression. You know what I'm saying? So more of a focus on something that is more practical in the schooling system, number one, and then also just having adults that are emotionally intelligent and aware to see these things happening to their students, their kids, just children in general, protecting these children. It always goes that extra mile. But yeah, that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Tom. Definitely agree. Hermila, you had your hand up first, and then I'll get to Anele.
Okay, so I definitely agree with Dom. There isn't a lot of awareness when it comes to mental illness, and there's a lot of also stigma around it, where people like if you bring up depression, or if you say like I'm mentally ill, they automatically assume the worst, and they're like, oh, you're not mentally ill, you can eat, you've been eating. Or like if you say like I have depression, they're like, what, you've been sleeping, what do you mean you have depression? Or like, what do you mean you have depression, you go to school, you know and there's like Anele said earlier on, I think that mental illness happens to some people in ways that you can't really see, and you can't really like assume. But I'd also like to add on to what Dom said, where not I don't think we only need awareness, because now there are places where people are getting more and more aware. But for example, if I think now that I have depression, or if I think that I am having some sort of mental illness, I can't do anything about it, because I can't even go and get actually what's the word, like go to the doctor and get diagnosed, right? I can't even go to the psychologist and be like, okay, I think I have this and this and blah blah blah, because it actually takes a lot of funds, a lot of money, and it takes time and stuff that maybe people don't have. So I think like along with the destigmatization and teaching awareness, we also need to add resources. For example, at school, if we had like counselors, you know even in primary school, just to talk through your problems. And if they see that things are maybe serious, then they can have you get you diagnosed, or whatever needs to happen, because a lot of people do go through it, and they kind of like self-diagnose, check on the internet, see that they do have the symptoms, for example. And I hear a lot of people say that like self-diagnosing is dangerous, and I understand that, but also some people just don't have the resources to actually go to a psychologist and get properly diagnosed. So they have to do what they can do with the funds that they have. So if we put like more funding, and if we created more resources for people to come out with this mental illness, and be able to afford getting helped, getting it treated, I think that would be really, really nice, really, really good.
Meera, you muted.
Yikes. Anyway, thank you for your answer, Hermela. Anile, where's your hand up after?
I just wanted to add on to what Dom was saying. It's mental illness is something that can occur in children, and sometimes it's not even situational. Like, you know how sometimes it can be based off of your trauma or situations you've gone through. Sometimes it's just your brain chemistry, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't change your brain chemistry except, you know, with medication and all of that. And that's not accessible. It's not easily accessible. And even if it is, it's like you can access it, yes, but like, how are you going to maintain it? Because a lot of everyone talks about treatment, but no one talks about maintaining the treatment and how expensive that can get. And on the like quick topic of self-diagnosing, I feel like once you reach a point in your life where you know something's wrong, you can tell that something's wrong, because I feel like as a person, you know yourself, you will know if something's wrong. But if you don't have the resources or the money or, you know, anything like that to get help and be able to, you know, get to see someone or get on a program that can help you, the best thing you can do is self-diagnose. And then once you've self-diagnosed, you can read up on a lot of things on how there's a bunch of articles and, like, you know, things like that that teach you and can tell you how to manage the symptoms of what you're feeling, even if you're not quite sure if you have what you think you have. And I feel like that is sometimes the best thing to do for yourself when you know that you can't get professional help.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you. Thank you for your answer, Anile. Cameron, you had your hand up next, and then I'm gonna get to Dom.
I just wanted to add, in terms of the access to treatment and to help, I definitely think, like what Dom said, it's first of all, you need to start with educational basis. You need to start with making sure that people are educated and know what mental illness is and how to deal with it on a smaller scale, and then make sure that there is access, because there's no use having all this education and then not having the access. If I think back to like my own personal experience, when I was in high school, I was really struggling to think, and I went through a really tough time, and I went to go speak to the school counselor, and she asked me, "Oh, but are you eating at home?" So I said, "Yes, I am." And she asked me, "Is your dad hitting you or whatever?" So I said, "No, he's not. Like, he's a great dad." And she was like, "Okay, so then what's wrong?" You know, so there is that access. I had access to help, but it wasn't proper access. And then like 2 years later, I was diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. So there was obviously this, you know, like, people don't take kids seriously, man. And it just, yeah. So I definitely think access is important, but proper access.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you for that, Cameron. Dominic had his hand up.
Yeah,
Actually, before Dom starts,
sorry.
if the meeting cuts us off, everybody watching, just rejoin at the same meeting. So yeah, Dom, go for it.
Yeah, it's definitely access. Access is hectic. I remember, to be honest with you, I only went to go and consult with a psychologist personally last year at the age of 21. That was crazy to me, and I was given all of these things, you know, general anxiety disorder, depression, episodic depression, IED, which is basically explosive emotional disorder. It's crazy that I think it was Anela that said this, that you realize that there's something wrong, but you don't know what to do, especially at a younger age. It all goes back to also now what Cameron just brought up, which is what I also want to bring up, is access to the relevant parties. And working in the medical aid field, I've recently, well, not recently, through my time and experience working within medical aid, there's laws that have actually been placed within society and within South Africa by the South African Medical Association. It's called prescribed minimum benefit. And basically, just to put it in a nutshell as to what prescribed minimum benefit is, it's if a person is facing a serious health issue that could lead to loss of limb, life, or serious detriment to their bodily and mental health, these types of things should be covered for. Whether it's covered for at the private facility, whether it's covered for at the public facility. If the person doesn't receive this treatment, a healthcare practitioner or healthcare professional could face serious charges against not treating this mental illness. As you know, mental illness can lead to somebody committing suicide or hurting other people. So it goes way back to my initial point where it's all about people being educated about the resources that are available. So the resources, the information is there. It's about people taking this information, understanding it, educating kids on the necessary, the necessary treatment, or educating kids that these are the ways that you can get help. These are the people that you can speak to. And through working within my job in the medical aid field, and then also because we reach out a lot within the public sector as well. So it's crazy for me to actually see that, damn, all of these resources are there, and only I think the numbers came out for 2019 recently when we did our annual report. I think it's only like something like 2.5% of the resources available to the public are actually being made use of. So like those would be like things such as SANCA, public psychiatric facilities, psychiatrists, counselors, social workers even that have the necessary training to assist, educate, and help people with treatment, prescribe medication to be actually covered for free of charge without even waiting in queues. Nobody knows about nobody knows that these things exist, and that's an issue within South Africa. You only, most of the time, the person that's dealing with these mental issues only comes to realize this within adulthood, and then you have to go through all of these treatment processes. It's the same thing like cancer. If you catch cancer in the early stages, you can defeat the cancer very